So why don't we talk a little football across the Lone Star State, get some headlines from across the state of Texas. Let's start in the high school/college ranks. This was reported originally by our friend Mike Roach. This is actually a story that involves a lot of our friends, so we can talk about this. It's reported by our friend Mike Roach at 247 Sports, and that is that friend of Dave Campbell's Texas football and former Lubbock Coronado head coach DJ Mann has been hired by Ole Miss to be the next assistant director of player personnel there for the Rebels. He was hired. I'll take you through all of this, right? It starts with our old friend, Alex from SMU.
Yep.
What's Alex's last name?
Brown,
thank you.
formerly of Rice. He went from Rice to
SMU as their director of player personnel. And he got hired in the offseason away from SMU to go become the director of player personnel at Ole Miss. Alex Brown moving there. He's stocking up on some Texas talent and brings in DJ Mann, the former Lubbock Coronado head coach, to be their assistant, to be his assistant. I can tell you from some personal reporting that I know that DJ has been on the radar of a variety of different college programs, and making that leap to the college ranks has been something that he's been eyeballing for a while, and an incredible opportunity for him to move to Ole Miss. We're thrilled for him. It's good things for good folks, and that's two Texas Football Today's own.
How about that?
Alex Brown. From then when he was at
Rice.
When he came with Rice, and then I don't know if we ever had him on when he was with SMU.
I don't think so.
But he was, but he goes to Ole Miss, and DJ Mann is following him. He of watch along fame. He's sat in our studio and watched games with us. So,
yeah,
we sure appreciate.
And that wasn't the most. It was funny when we first saw the news. It was like, hang on, what is the correlation between? My question was, what's the correlation between Lane Kiffin and DJ Mann? Like, how far back did that? And then I went, oh, Alex, that makes sense, because one, Alex was super tapped into the high school recruiting ranks, and I don't know if there's just a handful of guys who were former high school football coaches that were like in on recruiting, and DJ Mann was definitely one of them.
And I know that at his previous spots, places like Crosby, places like Cedar Hill, that's been a big part of his job. His job is like kind of spearheading the recruiting efforts of players, and obviously he's done an incredible job putting a number of players in the college ranks and then in the league as well. So
and even further than that, I think he was educating a lot of other Texas high school football coaches on like, hey, here's how you get your program recruited.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations to DJ Mann, who's going to be taking his talents to Mississippi. Okay, elsewhere across the state of Texas, a bit of a bummer news that came out, I believe it was Sunday morning, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and that is that former Texas Longhorns defensive lineman T'Vondre Sweat has been arrested, facing a DWI charge. He was picked up and booked at Travis County Jail at 2:12 p.m. on Sunday, charged with a Class B misdemeanor. The only reason I bring this up is not to shame the guy. Obviously, it's a mistake on his part, but this is a guy who we are now weeks, and like not many weeks, a couple of weeks away from the NFL draft, and a guy who's thought of as maybe a day 2 draft pick there is defensive lineman T'Vondre Sweat. You wonder what that does for his draft future and his draftability. I would imagine that he still gets picked because he's a ridiculously talented football player, and you don't go from day 2 to, usually don't fall from day 2 to out of the draft. I would say, however, that I am comfortable saying he probably cost himself some money. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 110%. They're, if he's able to go out there and say, I know I did wrong, I right my wrong, all of that stuff. But yeah, someone's about to get him on the cheap.
Yeah, I think somebody's might get a steal there, but
also like, don't do it again.
Don't do that.
Like, let's make it very clear. The official standpoint of Dave Campbell's is don't get DWIs.
Don't do that. That's a thumbs down. And then finally, I want to make sure we wrap up with a couple of big high school football coaching changes. Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas Football High School Football Insider, has got all of it up on TexasFootball.com. He tells me that Cal Allen may be hiring tonight, which is a...
He also put it in the comment with more exclamation marks that I can put into words.
Okay, Cal Allen may be hiring tonight.
So can confirm.
New Braunfels Canyon has made a hire. You may remember that New Braunfels Canyon was looking for a coach after Nate Leonard left to move around. Where did Nate Leonard go?
I don't know. I was just
he went to McKinney High.
That's correct.
He came up to McKinney High.
Yeah. After Marcus Shavers was let go.
New Braunfels Canyon has hired Sean McAuliffe, the Cy Ranch head coach, to be their next head coach. Sean McAuliffe, probably most notable for being he's a Converse Judson guy. He coached at Converse Judson from 2014 to 2018, 54-13 before moving down to Cy Ranch. He will now move back to the San Antonio area to take over there at New Braunfels Canyon.
He had Cy Ranch cooking last year.
He did. Oh yeah, no, he's building something. DFW Metroplex, Birdville has made a hire. You may remember Lon Holbrook was promoted to the Birdville ISC athletic department. They have made a hire. They've hired South Lake Carroll offensive coordinator Chris Smith to be their next head coach. Smith is known as one of the best offensive line coaches in Texas high school football. He will now get an opportunity to be the next head coach at Birdville. So Riley Dodge there at South Lake Carroll will be looking for a new offensive coordinator. How about this as far as a big splashy hire? Lake Worth. So Lake Worth has made a history of making big splashy hires.
Yeah.
You may remember their previous hire was Jerry Prieto. Mm-hmm. Jerry Prieto, who led Crosby to a state championship game berth in 2020. Jerry Prieto left to become the head coach at Dayton, went back kind of down to the Southeast Texas area. Mm-hmm. So Lake Worth, the Bullfrogs looking for a coach. They have hired Duncanville offensive coordinator Todd Peterman to be their next head coach.
Which was a little bit of a long search, too, to end up with that much of a splash hire.
Yeah, that's a big hire. Todd Peterman, of course, led DeSoto to a state championship back in 2016, their first ever state championship. Won two more since then, obviously, the two-time reigning 6A Division II state champions in DeSoto. But Todd Peterman now getting back into the high school and into the head coaching ranks. A guy who left DeSoto, he ended up going to Duncanville, and really taking that offense to new heights. You know, the thing we were talking about whenever Duncanville was playing was let Peterman cook. You know what I mean? Like, let Todd Peterman, who is renowned as an offensive mastermind, and that offense certainly was cooking the past couple of years, led them to back-to-back state, helped lead them to back-to-back state championships. But Todd Peterman back in the big chair, taking over at Lake Worth.
Well, and that's a funny thing with a roster like that, the fact that we're still saying, oh, he's a good coach, and it's not just like, well, yeah, it's hard to be a good coach, or it's hard to be a bad coach when you have that level of talent. It's like, no, you could still tell he was coaching them well.
Matt Stepp reports on TexasFootball.com confirming via multiple sources that Rockport Fulton is looking for a new head coach. Jacob Bible, who spent just a year down there in South Texas. He was on the staff at Midlothian Heritage before he went down, or before he was at before that he was at Aledo. He bounced around a little bit. Went just 2-9 this past year. But there is Rockport Fulton's in a bit of flux. They're looking for a new superintendent as well. As a result, that's going to make things really interesting down there in Rockport. But the Pirates looking for a new head coach. Jacob Bible has resigned down there at Rockport Fulton. Bridgeport also looking for a new head coach. J.D. Martinez has resigned there at Bridgeport. He, of course, probably best known before he went to Bridgeport. He was the coach at Sherman for 5 years, from 2016 to 2020. Don't know. He's likely. I would say he's likely to remain in coaching, but we will see exactly where J.D. Martinez lands. But Bridgeport is looking for a head coach as J.D. Martinez has stepped down. A couple more of them. McCamey was looking for a new head coach. You may remember that they were Michael Woodard had done really nice things there at McCamey. Mm-hmm. He left to become the McCamey Middle School principal, because it's small town stuff, guys.
Heck yeah, brother.
But they have hired Saginaw offensive coordinator Andrew Fellows to be their next head coach. Andrew Fellows will be the next head coach there at McCamey. And finally, out to the Panhandle, Pampa has made a hire. They have hired an alum in Floyd White, the Odessa Compass head coach. He's coming home. He talked with Matt Stepp on TexasFootball.com. Said, quote, "It's one of those things I always hoped I could do when I got into the professional. After all these years, it's just a blessing. I'm still awestruck He helped lead, Compass, which is kind of a burgeoning program out there in Odessa, a charter school. Went 4-7 the past couple of years. Now gets an opportunity to take over at his hometown. The Pampa Harvesters have a new head coach in Floyd White taking over there at Pampa. And those are all the headlines from across the state of Texas. You can find all of them, all the news that's fit to print, at texasfootball.com.